Welcome back to our Buddhist series. This is Jeannie Lynch coming to you, looking completely at right action today. Now that we know how to see, how to think, and how to speak, we stay in the morality aspect of the Dharma wheel when we look at the fourth path in right action. And right action has everything to do with the 5 precepts. What are the 5 precepts? What not to do in Buddhism. Don't forget, we learn by experiencing the path. So let's get right to work in today's video with right action. Enjoy. Satnam Bhikkhus, Jeannie Lynch coming to you back in the middle of our series. I say in the middle, and I think we are literally in the middle of our series, and I love that. Just to give you a sense of where you are and where I am and our timeline, it is actually February 16th or 17th right now. And I'm filming today for July. So I don't know what world events are going to take place, but I could not start this video without talking about what happened yesterday and then tying it into where we are in this class. So as of yesterday's news, we had yet another human being go into a school, and there was a mass shooting, and 20 people, 17 people were killed. And I just cannot not shout out and really be reflective of where we are. Well, I'll just start by saying karma, and I won't go into detail what I mean by that, but where we are in our time. And then I'm looking at this work that we're all doing together, and I couldn't help but feel or be reflective today that this work that we're diving into was written and came from the Buddha, the awakened one, the enlightened being, 2,500 years ago. And he felt the way we do today. We are looking out and witnessing and watching what is taking place and saying, how much more has to happen? And he came up with the system that we're on, the path, and said, there is a way around that. And if everyone would be like this, then yesterday would not have happened. So we're part of that. And so, as you're standing with the man in the mirror, right, and starting with you, what can you do? This path is actually part of that. And I'm not asking you to convert. Again, this isn't a religion, but I could not say that today and just be mindful of where we are with this work, and then the timing of it, and just realizing that it's exactly what the world needs right now. So diving into this month's class, let's talk about where we are. Let's start with where we should be in the movie. I did not like the first movie. I connected. It's the same movie. It's the PBS movie, but I didn't like the way it ended. It splits up and starts again. So I found a better version of the PBS documentary, and I've attached it to this video. It is up here in the corner, right there, as I always say. Watch 20 minutes to 40 minutes, part 2, the PBS. That's where we should be in Buddha's story. And as always, you will come into class and we will answer the questions on his journey. And I know you're finding it all relative, right? So let's get going on today's class. And recap where we've been. We see through the right lens. We know how to see Buddha's work through the 4 Noble Truths. And we've done a lot of work. We've got a whole new language and library of things that we've learned. We've done a lot of work together, haven't we? Uncovering our dukkha, freeing ourselves from the chains of our karma, looking at our lives a little differently, hopefully looking back, but also looking forward as we walk this path together, how to show up in the best way. So we know to do that because we're seeing it right? Then we thought about our intentions in one of our classes. We really dove into Buddha's work around what he meant with our intentions and how important they are. And those first 2 classes were all about wisdom. And this aspect of the Dharma wheel, the speech, today's action, next month's livelihood, is all about the ethics and the moral behavior of us, conduct as we'll call it, and you'll find out in a minute. So with that, we're diving into how we act. And the best way to start this class is to say that this great expression that we use often, right? Actions speak louder than words. Isn't that a nice little segue? Think about the speech that we just did. We learned from the path last month, and now we're putting those, our words into action. And that is what we're talking about when we talk about the right action. Right meaning sama. More words on sama, more words on right. You've heard them all, right? Skillful, ideal, useful, upright, wholesome, wise, wisdom. Those are all words when we talk about using right. And Buddha always refers to that as a better aspect of ourselves, right? So we're going to learn today what that is. And here's what's cool. If you're halfway through this class right now, this course, and you walk away with the 3 things I'm about to talk about, and that's all you learn, then my work is done here, okay? Buddha says that to act right is to be the following 3 things: to be absolutely generous, to be mindful, and to be compassionate. And if at the end of this class, those 3 aren't at the tip of your tongue, and what you see and how you're acting and what you're doing in your work, and if it hasn't shifted you and changed you in any way that you're more aware that you are more of these 3 things, then I have failed you as a teacher, okay? That's what this work is. So I'm going to say them again. Buddha meant when he said right action, that everyone that understood the path, in this path, and the 4th path of action, that you would be more compassionate, more mindful, and more generous. That's it. So let's find out what Buddha meant when he talked about what you should not do. And the word that he uses, and we have to talk about the 5 precepts when we're in the 4th path of the 8th Fold Path. The 5 precepts, if you go out anywhere, what is in the 8th Fold Path of the 4th? Action is all about the 5 precepts. So let's talk about what Buddha meant by those. I'm going to read them specifically, and then we're absolutely going to give you some cool homework. Yeah, homework can be cool. That will define them even more for yourself. Okay, get my bearings here. Look up the word precepts in the dictionary. In fact, I'll place it here in our video. It literally has the explanation of like a commandment or a law laid out and in place. And that's how we can see these. Remember the timeliness of this. 2,500 years ago. Jesus Christ died 500 years after Buddha was gone. Buddha died. Okay, so that gives you a sense of time. And we know that Moses threw out on his tablets the 10 commandments. They sound like the same. In fact, 5 of them are. The Catholics just have a little bit more rules. A little joke on my own religion there. But we're going to talk about those. That's what he meant by the 5 precepts. So I'm going to read you the definition, and you are receiving these too with a pack of cards that I gave you. Everything to do with these cards is in every one of our classes. So that's why these cards are going to be good for you for future. Okay. The 5 precepts. An ethical life is founded on these standards of conduct. There's the word. To refrain from killing, to refrain from stealing, to refrain from sex, misconduct. We'll talk about that more at the end of class here. And to refrain from false, harsh, and idle speech. To refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind. Okay, those are what Buddha is talking about when he talks about refraining from the conduct of any of those 5. Means that you are not being generous, mindful, and compassionate. Okay, so what your homework is, love me later, don't hate me, is you're going to pick one. You're going to pick one to dive a little bit more in for, and then at class, when we go around and do our round room, we're not going to break out into groups this time. You're actually going to share what you learned about the precept that you chose. And you didn't just choose it because you were getting something done. You chose it because you want to improve on that aspect in your own life. Oh, I just love that. So I'm going to give you an example of one that I'm absolutely intending to do, and maybe it'll make sense. So apply it to your own focus. Okay, so I'm going to choose killing. And I'm a spider killer. I have to admit it. I'm going to stop killing spiders that I find, even if they're crawling close to me. I'm going to find a way to disperse them outside. So that's one aspect. And then I also feel, after taking this class, that I truly do eat a lot of meat. And I'm feeling bad about that. And I just don't feel it's the total healthy choice too, the type of meat I'm eating. So I'm going to make a concerted effort to stop eating meat, at least once a meal. I eat 3 times a meal. I'm going to eat it once a day if that's the case. I'm going to find a way, don't know how I'm going to do that yet, to eliminate a portion of meat out of my diet. And that's going to be the way that I'm going to change that in a softer way. So that's just an example of what I'm asking you to do for your homework. So let me recap it. You're going to pick one of the precepts to dive in and learn more about. You're going to come to class and share that. You're going to explain why you chose that. And then you're going to set up a sense of your own homework for the next 30 days. So Jeannie, for the month of July, I'm going to do this. And you're going to have to tell 15 other women what that is, and then be accountable to it. So good luck in your journey. Good little segue too, to tell you, this is kind of how I keep my notes. Every time I go to teach a class, I buy a new journal, and I use the journal for everything that I teach and learn in class, and then I put it on my shelf, and it's like all my notes and information. So that's what I do. That might be a little tip to help you. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get into what Buddha meant when he was talking about, now that we know what you're not supposed to do. He does have 5 steps to being mindful, and he breaks those out, and I would like to do that for you today on this video so we can talk about what we should be doing. Are you with me? Let me look at my notes and let's get going. Number 1 aspect of right action is to be absolutely respectful of life, right? Hence not killing. But not just life, but your life force. So that means resting, that means taking breaks, that means not going full steam, that means eating, anything to do with respect to your life force is important. Okay. Next aspect of that, when he's talking about respect for life, is the planet. So be mindful of what we do to trash our planet. And that could be recycling. I plow through Bounty towels. I should have a couple dish rags handy and wash them twice a day. It would certainly save me a lot of money, but more importantly, stop on the landfill aspect, right? So we could all be making steps to save the planet. My friend Richard, who I biking with him once, and I watched him throw his goo bar wrapper paper into the woods, and I quickly corrected him, and to this day, 2 years later, he's picked up he would never even think of throwing his wrapper out now, and every time he puts it in the trash, he says, "This one's for you, Jean." I go, "No, it's for the planet." So let's move on. Think about life force too for those who may be sick and suffering and in their own dukkha, with their own physical body, and really showing up in a way and acting with kindness and compassion towards those people and helping them with the idea that they are suffering. So respect to that. Respect is what we're talking about. So let's move on. Number 2, Buddha really wanted us to be generous. And it doesn't mean, you got $10 on you and that's all you have and you give your $10 away. That's the Catholic's version of being generous. Buddha meant being generous with time, with your resources, with anything that you feel that not that you even have an abundance of, but what's being called for you to be generous for. Someone might say they just need a helping hand to move boxes from the attic down to the basement. That's being generous and helping them because they can't physically pick it up. So being generous with their strength. It has no boundaries on how generous we can be, and there isn't one of you, and if there is, I want to talk to you even more, that couldn't be more generous. And I'm not talking about giving it all away so you have nothing left and you're crawling into bed at the end of the night. You know those people. I'm not saying that. I'm asking for be respectful of your life force, right? Finding the balance in that. But do you all agree we could be more generous? I think you'll see that's true. Okay, so what's the opposite of generous, by the way? Clinging and holding on to and hoarding and hoarding. It would be the opposite, being greedy. So don't be greedy with things that you have an abundance of, or if you can be more generous, be more generous. Okay, let's keep going. Number 3, what did Buddha mean when he talked about misconduct, and what is the right conduct with sex? Sex is this beautiful thing, right, that's shared between two people in love, and sometimes we can really not be mindful with it. So being respecting a committed relationship and not cheating or using sex as a game or manipulation or taking it like it's I felt like I wanted it and that therefore I took it. That is misusing sex. Sex is this beautiful thing that should be and seen so, right? So I'll stop there. Number 4, deep listening that promotes community. I just like the way that sentence comes together. Really listening, but like listening to the full group and being mindful about what people are actually saying and the pulse of what's going on in their life to say it. I learned this lesson last year in Sacred Circle, diving deep. I learned what not to do, and shout out to that experience and having that. We all learned that last year, and wow, that was a good lesson, and I'll never be there again. So asking the question in that moment where there is contrast, what do you need from me right now? That's made me a better sitter in my office with people. What is it that you need from me right now? If I was going to help you, what would that look like? Do you just need me to hear your story? I wish I'd asked that question. So moving on from that, that is about deep listening that promotes community. Okay. Number 5, be careful what we consume, being mindful to what we consume. I love this. I know somebody who actually took a mindfulness eating course. And every time she sat down to eat her salad or her meal or anything, a sandwich, she had to be mindful of, what did it take to have the lettuce grow? Who picked it in the field? How fast was she eating? Not just the calories and the nutrition, which is another aspect of it, of mindfulness, but the broader scope of that. So what you're eating, it's all part of mindfulness. What you're watching on TV, how long you're on Facebook, what movies are you streaming on Netflix? Are they destroying and dark and killing people, and you're getting all caught up in that? That's what you consume for watching TV and what you expose yourself to. What you're reading, what are you reading? Are you being mindful what you read? The newspaper, right? How long do you sit there and read the tragic news, right? Facebook. And then the other one is YouTube. You're watching YouTube right now. Hopefully I'm not part of that problem, right? So you know where I'm going with that. Okay, so that's what we have this month when we talk about right action. We've certainly learned the 5 precepts, and you're going to learn more of that as you come to class. We understood what Buddha meant by the right mindfulness. I would like to end this class by talking about what the Dalai Lama wrote as an explanation of life and kindness and love, and it was so beautiful. I'm going to post it on our Facebook page, but I thought it would be a great way to end this video. We're ending right action. Next month you come in and we talk about livelihood, and I can't wait to talk about that. We know we covered in the first video what those 5 jobs should not be, but this is really more about showing up at your job and how you show up and how you get paid, and so I can't wait for that one. That's next month, August. So the Dalai Lama and his definition of compassion, and then I will say goodbye, and I'll see you in July. Are you ready? Let's do it. Dalai Lama. According to Buddhism, passion is an aspiration, a state of mind, wanting others to be free from suffering. It is not passive. It is not empathy alone, but rather an empathetic altruism that actively strives to free others from suffering. Genuine compassion must have both the wisdom and loving kindness. That is to say, one must understand the nature of the suffering from which we wish to free others from. This, my friends, is called wisdom. And one must experience deep intimacy and empathy with other sentient beings. That is loving kindness. That is beautiful. This is Jeannie Lynch wrapping it up. Such a pleasure, such an honor to be walking the Eightfold Path with each of you. And thank you. Love and light. Namaste.